There's a question I've been wanting to ask for a long time, something so personal, so human, but so often swept under the rug. Have you ever felt like society just stopped seeing you after a certain age? Like your desires, your needs, even your humanity somehow fade into the background once those birthday candles start piling up? Well, today we're going to talk about one of those quiet, unspoken topics, intimacy after 70. And let me be clear, this isn't about shock value or pushing boundaries. It's about something far simpler, dignity. Because here's the truth-wanting connection: touch, even passion, isn't something that magically disappears when you retire. But for some reason, the world acts like it does. Think about it. When's the last time you saw a movie, a television show, even an advertisement that showed seniors as anything other than, well, grandparents? Sitting in rocking chairs, baking cookies, maybe holding hands if we're feeling daring. But desire? Romance? That's reserved for the young and shiny, right? Wrong. And here's why that mindset isn't just outdated, it's harmful. Let's start with the big one. Society's blind spot. We've all heard the jokes, senior sex as a punchline, like it's somehow ridiculous or even embarrassing. But what's really happening there? It's a way of saying, your time for that is over. Sit down, be quiet. And that's not just hurtful, it's dangerous. When we stop talking about seniors' needs for intimacy, we stop caring about their health, their happiness, their right to feel fully alive. Now, maybe you're thinking, but isn't this just how aging works? Let me stop you right there. Because here's the second point. Intimacy isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. Studies show that emotional and physical closeness can lower blood pressure, reduce stress, even boost immunity. It's not just about the act itself, it's about feeling wanted, connected, like you still matter in this world. And let's be honest, who doesn't need that at any age? But here's where it gets personal. Maybe you felt that shift yourself. A partner who's no longer with you, a body that doesn't respond like it used to. Or worse, a doctor who brushes off your concerns with a chuckle and a, "What do you expect at your age?" That's not okay, and it's not inevitable. Because while biology changes, and yes, that's real, it doesn't erase your right to explore, adapt, and find joy in new ways. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt dismissed or unheard when it comes to this part of your life? Drop a comment below. Let's start breaking this silence together. Because here's the thing. Every story shared is a crack in that wall of silence society's built around us. And if you're sitting there thinking, but where do I even start? Don't worry, we're going to talk about that. Because this isn't just about why society ignores seniors' desires, it's about how you can reclaim your voice, your confidence, and yes, even your spark. Whether you're single, partnered, navigating health challenges, or just curious, there's a place for you in this conversation. So let's keep going, because up next, we're diving into the real, practical steps to honor your needs, rewrite the rules, and maybe even surprise yourself. After all, why should the young folks have all the fun? Let's get real for a moment. When we talk about intimacy later in life, it's not always sunshine and roses, and that's okay. Life throws curveballs, doesn't it? Maybe you've thought, my body just doesn't cooperate like it used to, or how do I even bring this up with my partner or my doctor without feeling awkward? Trust me, you're not alone. And here's the good news. Adaptation isn't about loss, it's about discovery. Take physical changes, for example. Let's say you're dealing with arthritis, or maybe menopause left your body feeling like a stranger, or perhaps those little blue pill ads on television make you roll your eyes because, let's be honest, they're not talking to you. But here's the thing, solutions exist, and they're not one size fits all. A warm bath before intimacy, a different position that's kinder to your joints, or even a candid chat with a healthcare provider who listens. These aren't compromises. They're acts of self-respect. And speaking of candid chats, let's talk about communication. Maybe you and your partner have been together for decades, but suddenly talking about this feels like tiptoeing through a minefield. Or maybe you're newly single, navigating dating in a world that acts like swiping right is only for the under -30 crowd. Here's a secret. The best conversations start with honesty, not perfection. Try something like, "I miss feeling close to you. How can we figure this out together?" Or, "I'm nervous, but I'd love to explore this side of life again." It's not about grand gestures. It's about tiny, brave steps. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Fear. Fear of judgment. Fear of failure. Fear that it's too late. But here's what I want you to remember. Desire doesn't come with an expiration date. I recently heard from a viewer, let's call her Margaret, who reconnected with a childhood sweetheart at 78. She said, "We held hands for weeks before we even kissed. It was like being 16 again, but better because we knew ourselves." Margaret's story isn't rare, it's just rarely shared. And that's where you come in. If you've found a workaround, a moment of joy, or even a frustration you're still grappling with, share it below. Your words might be the lifeline someone else needs to hear. Because when we swap stories, we swap strength. Now, let's tackle something practical. Myths versus reality. You've probably heard that older adults don't need sex, or that it's risky after a certain age. But here's the truth. Intimacy is as individual as your fingerprint. For some, it's a passionate part of life. For others, it's a quiet closeness, a shared laugh, a lingering touch. Both are valid. Both are human. The real risk isn't in exploring, it's in letting shame or silence steal your choices. So, what if your body has changed? What if health issues or medications throw a wrench in things? That's where creativity shines. Maybe it's focusing on touch instead of performance, or scheduling a date night when you're least fatigued. Or here's a radical idea, letting go of old definitions entirely. Intimacy isn't a checklist. It's a conversation that evolves with you. And if you're met with a dismissive doctor or a raised eyebrow from a friend, that's their limitation, not yours. You deserve care that honors your whole self, body, heart, and spirit. Don't settle for less. But here's what I really want you to take away. This isn't about fixing anything. It's about claiming what's always been yours, the right to feel alive, connected, and unapologetically you. Whether that means reigniting an old flame, exploring solo pleasure, or simply redefining what intimacy means on your terms, it all counts. So, let's keep this conversation going. Because in the next part, we're diving into the how, tools, resources, and heart-to-heart advice to help you step into this chapter with confidence. Spoiler alert, it's never too late to write a love story, especially when you're the author. Let's talk about the how, because that's where the magic happens, isn't it? You've probably heard the phrase, where there's a will, there's a way. And when it comes to intimacy after 70, that couldn't be truer. But let's get specific. Let's talk about tools, resources, and the kind of advice you'd share with a dear friend over a cup of tea. First up, knowledge is power. Did you know there are therapists and coaches who specialize in senior intimacy? They're not always easy to find, but they exist, and they're changing lives. One viewer, Frank, wrote to me about working with a counselor after his wife passed. He said, "I thought my romantic life was over. Turns out, I just needed someone to help me see it differently." Frank didn't fix himself, he learned to reimagine. And reimagining is key. Let's say mobility is a challenge. Maybe traditional sex feels off the table, but what about massage, sensual music, or even just lying skin to skin with someone you care about? Intimacy isn't a race, it's a slow dance. And sometimes, the most meaningful moments happen when we let go of expectations and lean into curiosity. Now let's talk about health. Maybe you're managing diabetes, heart disease, or medications that throw your libido for a loop. Here's the thing. Your doctor should be your ally here. If they brush you off, politely but firmly say, "This matters to my quality of life. Let's discuss options." You'd be amazed how many solutions exist, from adjusting medication times to exploring topical treatments. And if your doctor still won't listen, it might be time to find one who will. And for those of you flying solo, this isn't just about finding a partner, it's about embracing your own company. Self-pleasure isn't just for the young. In fact, it's a beautiful way to stay connected to your body, reduce stress, and even improve sleep. Think of it like stretching a little self-care that keeps you limber, both physically and emotionally. But here's the part we don't talk about enough: community. Loneliness is an epidemic among seniors, and it's not just about missing conversation, it's about missing touch. Did you know some retirement communities now offer cuddle clubs or partner dancing classes? Or that platonic touch, like hugging a friend or holding hands during a walk, can release the same mood-boosting oxytocin as a romantic gesture? Connection doesn't have to fit into a box. Now, I want to pause here and ask you something. What's one small step you could take this week to honor your need for connection? Maybe it's reaching out to an old flame, scheduling a checkup to address a nagging health concern, or even just giving yourself permission to buy that silky pajama set you've been eyeing. Share your plan in the comments. I'd love to cheer you on. And if you're feeling brave, tell us what's holding you back. Sometimes, naming the fear is the first step to disarming it. But let's not sugarcoat it. Society's biases won't vanish overnight. You might still get the side eye from a relative or a dismissive comment at the pharmacy. But here's what I've learned. Every time you choose to prioritize your joy, every time you say, "My needs matter," you're not just helping yourself. You're paving the way for the next generation to age with more honesty, more freedom, and more life in their years. So let's wrap this up with the big picture. Intimacy after 70 isn't about clinging to youth, it's about embracing the full, messy, glorious spectrum of being human. It's about laughter that turns into snorts, hands that know every crease and scar, and the quiet thrill of thinking, "I'm still here, I'm still me." Before we go, I'd love your help. If this conversation resonated with you, hit that like button. It tells YouTube, hey, seniors care about this stuff, and helps us create more content that truly serves you. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing. We're building a community here, one where no topic is too taboo, and no one gets left out of the conversation. Finally, I'll leave you with this. Aging isn't about fading into the background. It's about stepping into your light, wrinkles, wisdom, wonders, and all. So go on, reach for the connection you deserve. The world needs your spark now more than ever. Here's to writing your next chapter on your terms. Cheers, my friends.